and I had a chance to talk with Dan Johnson on your line of engines when we were at Midwest, but you're over here at Arlington. That's a fair distance away from where you're from.
Yeah, I actually had a good opportunity. Steve Dent's built this Just Highlander, and he put our 130 horsepower on it. And so he was here representing Just Aircraft. And so in conjunction with Just and with Steve Dent, I was able to fly here commercially without bringing an engine, so it was a much easier trip.
Now, this engine, I initially looked at it, I thought it was just your little 4-cylinder 80 horse, but you're saying this is 130 horse?
Yeah, this is the 3.5 liter, the UL 350IS, and it's 130 horsepower. We basically have four different model 4-cylinder engines, and now we have a new 6-cylinder engine, so we have 8 different model engines from 97 horsepower on up to 196 horsepower.
Now, what's unique about this engine? Why would the owner choose this engine, say, over a 912?
This engine compared to the 912 is direct drive, it's air-cooled, it's fuel injection, and it's got electronic ignition, and it's full FADEC. So it's a combination of things. Oh, plus it's got a wet sump versus a dry sump. So the basic engine itself is different, and then it's got the new technology, and it's built, it's an on-purpose aircraft engine. Direct drive, horizontally opposed, 4-cylinder or 6-cylinder, and it's air-cooled.
Now, when you say FADEC, what does that mean?
FADEC stands for Full Authority Digital Engine Control, and basically it's taking data from the engine. It's got several different sensors: oil temperature sensor, manifold air temperature, crankshaft position, throttle position, and ambient air pressure. So that data goes to the engine control unit, the ECU, and based upon the formula in the ECU and the data that's coming from these sensors, the ECU tells the engine how much fuel to send to the cylinders or to the heads, and then it also tells the spark plugs when to fire. So it's optimizing it's making it as efficient and as economical as possible through the full parameter of flight from startup to shutdown.
And if something happens to the computer and that isn't working, what happens then?
There's different things depending upon which part actually fails. There's a fail-safe. There's different, like if the throttle position sensor fails, for instance, it fails rich. And then we have a dual ECU option if somebody's really concerned and wants it so there's no single point of failure. We have a dual ECU option, and one ECU drives one set of coils and plugs, and the other ECU drives the other, and both are operating at the same time, and there's 2 fuel pumps, and so it's totally redundant.
Now, when the owner went to mount this engine, was there a motor mount and so on and so forth that was available for him to put it on this aircraft?
This specific installation, the answer is no. Just Aircraft today is developing a firewall forward kit, and Zenith Aircraft has a firewall forward kit for all of their airplanes. And the way that I am working, when a customer comes with a new airplane, I go to that manufacturer and give that manufacturer the opportunity. If they want to do a firewall forward kit, we enter an OEM agreement with them, and they develop the firewall forward kit. We provide the engine, and then they sell the engine and the kit combined to the customer.
Now, would there be any major modifications that would have to be done to the Highlander or to some other aircraft in order to use your engine?
The biggest issue is with the fuel-injected engine, you need a fuel return line back to the tank, or you need a header tank, and then you can have the fuel return to the header tank along with the fuel coming from the main tanks, whether they're in the wing or the fuselage. Like the RV-12, for instance, has one tank, so it's easy just to run a return back to that one tank, or install a header tank.
Now, is this a dry sump system or wet sump?
It's a wet sump.
Now, is it a complete package coming from you to the manufacturer or to the end user?
Yeah, the engine, every engine when it's put together in the factory is put on the test stand and it's run, not taken apart, but the exhaust and different things, the ignition, and put in the box. So it's run as a complete engine, and it comes as a complete running engine. It includes the exhaust, comes with one fuel pump, and then we have optional kits. We have a fuel connection kit, oil cooler kit, and a second fuel pump kit. Those 3 kits are very common, and Zenith, as an example, buys those 3 optional kits from us, includes that in their firewall forward kit. But other than that, it's a complete running engine, and the firewall forward kit itself really is pretty simple as well. It's a propeller, a spinner, a cowl, a mount, the throttle cable, and a few brackets. So it's really a very simple installation compared to some of the other aircraft engines.
Now, you've got this engine up and running. What are the maintenance requirements on a regular basis for the customer?
The maintenance is pretty much like an 0200. The editor of Kip Plains magazine had a really nice quote. He told me, it's looking at the engine, he said, this is, if the guy that designed the 0200 was alive today, this is the engine he would build. It's just basic, simple, horizontally opposed engine with modern technology, modern CAD/CAM design and construction, and then it's got current technology with the FADEC. And the maintenance manual, all of our manuals are online, the installation manual, maintenance manual, etc. So if somebody really wants to learn about the engine, it's a good opportunity. They can download those manuals and read those and see really how simple it is.
And what about the TBO on the engine?
The TBO now is 1,500 hours. And one of the things that's really nice about this engine, they designed it in such a way as you're approaching TBO or at any point, you can pull the oil pan off and look inside. The way the case is designed, you've got a real good capability to a visual inspection. You can see the back of the connecting rods and see if there's any discoloration. So in addition to checking compression and oil and doing oil analysis and checking the oil filter, you can do a real good visual inspection without doing a borescope to see if overhaul is required.
Now, when you get into an overhaul on some engines, you basically have to replace the whole engine. Let you use the cylinders or something like that. How is this engine? Can I actually get in and replace crankshaft, replace connecting rods, pistons, that type of thing?
Yeah, it's a split case. It's very much like a Volkswagen or an O200. So the owner builder could do a lot of the work himself. We have a 2-year warranty. If you're inside that 2-year warranty, we don't want the owner to split the case. But outside of that warranty, the owner really could do whatever they want with respect to overhaul, and we sell the parts. And so it's really up to the owner. The highest time engine we have is 900 hours, and we took it apart and inspected. Everything is within limits. So we don't have a lot of experience in terms of overhaul cost and the items that are damaged at the time of overhaul. So we'll have to gain more history there to see, to give a real good, thorough answer to that question.
And how many of these engines are actually flying in the world now?
We don't know how many are flying, but we've sold a little over 400 engines worldwide. In the U.S., we've sold about 40 engines, and about 10 or 15 of those are flying.
Now, when you look at an all-out weight on this airplane engine, what are we looking at?
It really depends on the model. At 97 horsepower and 107 horsepower, we're 160 pounds for a complete installed engine. 118 and 100 horsepower, we're 173 pounds. And then our new 6-cylinder engine, we've got 140 and 160 horsepower. Coming out the end of the year will be right about 200 pounds. And we've already got out the 180 and 196 horsepower. They're 242 pounds for a complete running engine. And then cost-wise, the smaller engines are comparable to the other engines on the market, a little bit higher than one, a little bit less than the others. And then in terms of the 6-cylinder engine, we're less expensive than the traditional 6-cylinder aircraft manufactured engines.
Now, a lot of owners now are going to glass panels that require a lot of electricity to power everything. What kind of output do we have for Hydra on this?
The standard engine is a 30 amp alternator. It's integral alternator. It's built into the crankshaft. It's on the back of the engine, and we have an optional 50 amp alternator. So far, I've only sold one engine with the 50 amp alternator. Everybody else seems to be fine with the 30 amp. Zenith, as an example, in their company demonstrator, they're 650. They've got the 30 amp alternator. They've got glass panel with 2 displays, and they've got the nice new technology landing light, wing lights, and they've got about 1 amp to spare with everything turned on. So the 30 amp seems to be sufficient.
And what about fuel consumption on the engine?
It really depends upon the airframe and the operation. The Zenith 650 at 100 miles an hour cruise, they're about 2,200 RPM. They're getting about 4 gallons per hour. Same airplane, they take it up to about 2,800 RPM. They're about 6.5 gallons per hour, but they're cruising around 118 knots. And so it really depends upon the situation. We've got all the fuel flow numbers on our website if somebody wants to get in there and look at the specific fuel consumption.
Now, is carb heat required on this engine?
No, there's no carb heat, there's no carburetor, so no carb heat, and there's no primer, and there's no choke, and there's no mixture. The FADEC controls all of that.
So if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, get a little more information, what's the easiest way to do that?
Our website is ulpower.net, and then the parent company's website is ulpower.com, and all of our contact information is on there.
Okay. Now, are you physically located in the United States?
Yeah, I'm in Missouri. I'm on Lake of the Ozarks, right smack dab in the middle of the U.S.
Okay. And delivery on one of these engines, if, for example, a customer at the show decided he wanted one, what would be the expected delivery time?
Our stated delivery time is to plan on 6 to 8 weeks. We've got some engines in inventory depending upon the specific situation. One of the issues, though, is the options that the customer wants, the length of the ECU wiring loom and things like that. So it's hard to keep engines in inventory because of the different requirements for the different planes.
Okay. Now, when we looked at some of the instrumentation, is this engine compatible, for say, with a Skyview and that type of thing?
Yeah, Dynon has a real good, the Dynon works nicely, and Dynon, because of this engine, is working on new capabilities where they'll be able to take more data from the ECU and display it on their panel.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.